I lived most of my life believing I was walking the right path. I truly thought I understood faith. My name is Martin. I'm 68 years old, and until recently I was certain, absolutely certain, that I was saved. From the outside, I looked like a man of faith. Born in a quiet coastal town in Florida, I was raised on warm sunrises and salt-scented breezes. Life was peaceful. I attended church every Sunday, read my Bible faithfully, and prayed every night before I went to sleep. I had what many would call a strong spiritual routine, but deep inside, something wasn't right, and I didn't know it. Fishing was my quiet retreat, my sanctuary. Out there on the ocean, I often felt closest to God. The waves, the wind, the endless sky, it all felt sacred. I'd cast my line and whisper prayers into the wind, believing that was enough. My heart never ached with guilt. I didn't cry out for mercy. I didn't feel the need to. I was sure that believing in God and living a decent life was all it took. I thought I was good, and in many ways, I was. I never stole, never hated anyone, never lived a wild life. I loved my family. I gave to charity. I even helped others in the community. But the problem wasn't in the visible things. It was in what I never questioned. You see, I had unknowingly wrapped myself in a dangerous kind of pride. A quiet, dignified pride. The kind that disguises itself as holiness. I judged silently, not out loud, not cruelly, but I did it. I saw people who didn't live as righteously as I did, and in my heart, I felt superior. I never said it. I didn't need to. It lived there quietly, growing roots. I didn't realize that spiritual pride is like a slow, invisible poison. It doesn't kill with a flash. It dulls the soul gently, numbing it over time, until you no longer see how distant you've become from the heart of God. The truth is, I believed in God, but I never truly surrendered. I believed in the Bible, but I used it like a mirror to reflect other people's flaws, not my own. I spoke of grace, but I never cried out for it myself. I believed I was good enough. And that belief was my greatest spiritual danger. There was no major event, no dramatic fall from grace. I simply drifted, peacefully, comfortably, into a false sense of security. Like a man asleep at the wheel, I was living in a gentle dream, unaware that the road I was on was curving toward a cliff, until one quiet Saturday morning. The sky was clear, the ocean still. I remember thinking it was a perfect day to fish, nothing out of the ordinary. My old friend Jack and I had planned this trip all week. We loaded the boat like we always did, laughing about things we'd laughed about for years. We pushed off, and the gentle rhythm of the sea calmed me, like it always did. But something inside me, something I hadn't felt in years, stirred. A weight I couldn't name, a sense that something was about to happen. I ignored it, of course. That's what pride does. It explains away the whispers. It tells you you're fine, that you're strong, that everything's under control. But I would soon learn. When heaven tries to reach you, it often begins with a whisper, just before the storm. And the storm was coming. If you're still reading this, it means your heart is open. That matters more than you know. If this message has touched you in any way, I invite you to become part of our loving community. Click to subscribe, leave a like, and help us spread messages that heal, awaken, and inspire. You are welcome here, truly. Leave a comment with your name and the city you're watching from. We'd love to send you a warm greeting in our next video. We're building something beautiful here, and it wouldn't be the same without you. The air was still that morning, almost too still. There was a strange silence above the water, and I remember how clear the sky looked. Not a single cloud. Jack, always relaxed, was humming an old tune while preparing the lines. I sat at the edge of the boat, staring at the horizon, but something didn't feel right. I couldn't explain it, but something inside me was uneasy. I had fished those waters for over 40 years. I knew their rhythms, their winds, their moods. But that day felt different, and yet I said nothing. It all happened so fast. Out of nowhere, the wind rose with violent force, snapping through the air like a whip. Clouds poured in from the distance like a curtain falling over a stage. The ocean, just moments before calm and blue, turned dark and raging. Jack jumped to the motor, yelling orders, but even his voice was no match for the growing roar of the waves. I froze. I tried to pray, but my mind was racing. And then I saw it, a massive wave, higher than any I had seen in my life, curling toward us like a beast from the deep. Everything slowed. My breath caught. My heart pounded in my chest like a warning drum. And then, impact. The boat was swallowed. I was thrown into the sea, and for a moment that felt like forever, there was nothing, no air, no light, just the crushing silence of water all around me. I fought, panicked, thrashed toward the surface, but the ocean pulled me deeper. The darkness closed in, and I felt my strength leave me. And then I let go, not of life, but of control. That's when everything changed. In that moment of absolute surrender, when my body was weak and my soul exposed, something pierced the darkness. A light. Faint at first, like a flickering star in the night, but it grew steadily. It wasn't just a light, it was a presence, alive, radiant, peaceful. It wasn't harsh or blinding. It was gentle, warm, familiar. I was no longer struggling. I wasn't afraid. The ocean around me disappeared. I couldn't feel the weight of water or the pull of gravity. I was somewhere else, somewhere still, somewhere holy. Then I heard it, a voice, deep, steady, calm. It spoke my name, Martin, not shouted, not whispered. It resonated inside me. It didn't come from outside, it came from within. From every part of who I was. The sound was more than a call. It was an awakening. And then the voice said something that made my soul tremble. It's time to face what you've denied. I didn't understand at first. Denied? What had I denied? I wanted to speak, to ask, but I had no voice. I only had awareness. A flood of thoughts and memories began to rise within me. Moments I had buried or overlooked, judgments I had made in silence, people I had dismissed in my heart, prayers I had spoken out loud but never truly felt. I had lived my life believing I was spiritually safe, that I had done everything right. But in that sacred stillness I saw the truth. I had confused routine with relationship. I had mistaken comfort for salvation. And then the light began to dim, not because it was retreating, but because something else was coming forward. A vision. It rose before me like a veil being pulled back, a landscape of unimaginable sorrow, a place of fire, not symbolic, but real, a place where pain echoed endlessly. I saw faces, faces I knew, people I had prayed beside, laughed with, respected. There was no accusation in their eyes, only anguish. And they looked at me as if to say, "How did we not see this coming?" I couldn't breathe, not from fear, but from heartbreak. I wanted to cry, to scream, to help them, but I couldn't move. I was being shown something I had never dared to imagine, something that stripped me of every illusion. And then, once again, the voice spoke, this time softer, almost sorrowful. They believed, but they never surrendered. They prayed, but never humbled themselves. They carried pride in their hearts, dressed in robes of righteousness. A silence followed, heavy, sacred. And then the voice said something that echoed through every corner of my soul. "You are not here to be condemned, Martin. You are here to understand." And that was just the beginning. If you're with us, your heart is already open to something deeper. If this message moved you, I invite you to become part of this community built on truth, transformation, and love. Click to subscribe, leave a like, and share this message with someone you care about. We're walking this path together, and you are not alone. Leave your name and the city you're watching from in the comments. We'd be honored to greet you in the next video and welcome you into this growing circle of faith and light. I once believed that hell was just a metaphor, an ancient symbol to scare people into behaving. I used to smile at the idea, shrug it off with casual disbelief. After all, God is love, right? How could love ever condemn someone? But what I saw next changed everything I thought I knew. The light that had once surrounded me gently stepped back, and in its absence, a darkness emerged. Not just an absence of light, but a presence of sorrow, weight and silence so thick it pressed against my very spirit. I was no longer in the ocean. I was no longer in my body. I was somewhere beyond, somewhere eternal. And then I saw it. Before me unfolded a place I never imagined I would see, not in dreams, not in warnings, not even in the deepest parts of my imagination. The sky, or what passed for one, was black and endless. Fire danced in columns, leaping like living creatures through the void, not warming but consuming. The ground cracked with heat, and the air was heavy with something far worse than smoke. It was grief, pure, dense grief. Then I heard the voices, not screaming in rage, but in agony. Real, unfiltered suffering, souls, not bodies. Echoes of people crying out, not against God, but against themselves. Voices of regret, of sorrow, of realization that came too late, and among them, faces. I knew them. People I had sat beside in pews. People who had led worship. People who prayed loudly and passionately. People who had seemed safe. And they were not. Their eyes, those desperate eyes, met mine with a pain I cannot put into words. Not anger, not blame, just a question. Why didn't we see it? Why didn't we change when there was still time? My spirit trembled. I looked around and recognized more than just individuals. I saw the spirit of a generation. People who had built their faith on performance, on appearances, on comparison. People like me. I felt exposed, as if their fate could easily become my own. That's when the voice returned. They are not here because they sinned. They are here because they refused to let go of pride. The voice wasn't angry. It was firm and full of sorrow. It wasn't casting judgment. It was unveiling truth. They used my name, the voice said, but never let me into their hearts. They spoke of humility, but lived for recognition. They preached grace, but refused to walk in it. I was still, silent, ashamed, because I understood. Not long ago I had laughed with Jack, mocking those who warned about hell and judgment. I had felt so enlightened, so above it all. I had called it fear-mongering. But here I was, surrounded by those who had once believed the same thing, and they were lost in a sorrow that words cannot reach. I remembered one woman clearly, soft-spoken, devout. She always prayed with closed eyes and lifted hands. She was always present at church. And yet, here she was, her soul echoing with the realization that her outward devotion had never touched her inward pride. How could this be? The voice responded before I could ask. Pride wears the mask of holiness. It prays with eloquence, but listens to no one. It worships in public, but resists surrender in private. And then it hit me, not like a blow, but like a mirror. I saw myself, not just recently, but across decades. I saw my heart judging quietly, dismissing people who didn't measure up, avoiding those who needed grace, walking with a righteousness that was rooted in image, not in love. I watched as the vision showed me a man I respected deeply, once a leader in our church. I had followed his words, trusted his guidance, and now he stood there, consumed by the fire that never died. He wasn't angry, he was broken. Even he, I whispered, even him? Yes, the voice replied, because he loved admiration more than transformation. He knew the words, but never let them change him. It felt unbearable, until I understood something crucial. This was not punishment. This was the result of choice. The voice continued. Every soul here lived a faith that never reached the heart. They hid their pride behind good deeds. They used religion to elevate themselves. But I never asked for perfection. I asked for repentance. And there it was. The word I had never fully embraced. Repentance, not fear, not guilt, but a genuine surrender of self. A letting go, a turning of the heart back toward the one who created it. And I had missed it. Over and over again, I had chosen comfort over conviction. Now I was being shown what happens when comfort becomes a spiritual coffin. But I wasn't alone in this revelation. From the edge of the darkness, another figure emerged. And what I saw next shattered me to my core. If this message touched your heart, take a step today towards something greater. Join our community, a place where transformation begins with humility and grows in truth. Subscribe to this channel, leave a like to support the mission, and let us walk this journey of faith together. We'd love to know your name and where you're watching from. Share it in the comments and allow us to send you a greeting in the next video. You matter to this family. He stood before me, or rather, his presence stood before me. Jack, my friend, my fishing partner, the man who had been at my side that very morning. His face was not twisted in anger or fear. It was sorrow, a sorrow that seemed older than time itself. His eyes, once full of laughter, were now heavy with grief. He tried to speak, but no sound came out, only silence, a silence louder than any cry. And yet I understood him. I could feel it, his regret. He had lived like me, trusted his routines, mocked deeper truths, believed that surface-level faith was enough. But now he was here, lost, because he never let the truth reach his heart. It shattered me. I wanted to weep. I wanted to run to him, embrace him, plead for forgiveness for both of us. But I couldn't move. I could only watch as he slowly faded back into the shadows, his eyes still holding mine, saying everything words could never capture. Then I heard it again, the voice. Martin, now you see. There was no anger in it, no condemnation. Only a power so pure it made my soul tremble. The kind of power that doesn't destroy, it awakens. That voice carried truth, but also mercy. And that combination, truth and mercy, was what broke me open. You believed your prayers were enough. You believed your knowledge was enough, but you never allowed me to break your heart. I couldn't respond. I didn't need to. I knew it was true. Images of my life began to play before me. Simple scenes, ordinary moments, and yet now they burned with clarity. I saw myself judging others quietly, feeling spiritually superior. I saw my family absorbing my pride without even realizing it. I saw how my example, cold, polished, and proud, had shaped their understanding of God. I saw my children watching me pray without passion. I saw my grandchildren listening to my words about God, but never feeling His love through me. And I wept. For the first time, I truly wept. Not out of fear, not even out of guilt, but out of clarity. My soul had been asleep, and now it was awake. Awake to the beauty of humility. Awake to the truth that God never asked me to perform. He asked me to surrender. Then the voice returned, quieter now. Martin, I did not bring you here to punish you. I brought you here to free you. I felt the words like light breaking through chains. I had feared this moment, feared the truth, but now I saw this was not the wrath of God. This was His love, blazing brighter than I had ever known. A love that confronts, a love that heals, a love that does not leave you in your illusion. You must let go of what you built in pride. Let me build something new in you. It was not a suggestion. It was a lifeline. At that moment, I understood grace, not as a concept, but as a living presence. Grace was not permission to live unchanged. Grace was the invitation to become fully alive. My knees buckled, not from fear, but from surrender. All the spiritual pride I had clung to, all the polished religion I had performed, it broke, cracked wide open under the weight of God's mercy, and in its place a new hunger rose within me, not for answers, not for doctrines, but for Him, for the one who knew me completely and still spoke with tenderness. I whispered, if my soul could whisper, 3 words I had never truly meant until that moment: I need you. And heaven heard it. I thought I had seen the worst, but nothing could prepare me for what came next. After the visions of souls I had known, some respected, some forgotten, I felt a stillness settle around me. It wasn't silence like before. This stillness was sacred, heavy, yet gentle, like the pause before a truth too deep for words. Then, without warning, new images began to rise. My family. I saw them, not just as they were, but as they had become through my eyes, through my example, my children, my grandchildren, each of them carrying pieces of the same quiet pride that had lived in me for so long. They mimicked the very habits I once called faith, the careful prayers, the neat church attendance, the respectful nods during sermons. But their eyes were like mine once were, distant, calm, unbothered, spiritually asleep. I watched them go through motions I had perfected, sitting in pews, saying grace before meals, smiling politely at neighbors. But underneath, I could now see it all clearly. No fire, no brokenness, no deep surrender to the living presence of God. And I wept. Not for myself this time, but for them, for what I had passed on. I'd always believed I was giving them something good, structure, order, morality, but what I had actually handed them was something hollow, a faith built on performance, not transformation. I never taught them to fall on their knees. I never showed them what it meant to need grace, to seek God with trembling hands and a wide open heart, because I had never done that myself, and now I saw the cost. Their souls weren't lost, not yet, but they were drifting, quietly, steadily, just like I had. And the weight of that truth, of how my hidden pride had shaped generations, broke something inside me that would never be the same again. The voice spoke once more. But this time, it was not just for me. Do you see, Martin? Pride does not die in silence. It multiplies. It moves through families, through generations. When one heart closes, many are affected. I fell to my knees, not in despair, but in revelation. I had always thought of sin as personal, something between me and God. But pride, this silent spiritual pride, it was like smoke. It filled rooms I never entered. It lingered in the lives of those I loved most. And now I understood something deeper. God wasn't showing me these things to shame me. He was showing me because there was still time to change, still time to become the kind of man who left behind something better, still time to love not just with words and lessons, but with transformation. To let humility flow through me like living water. To speak not just about grace, but to live it, broken and open, every day. The voice grew softer now, not distant, intimate. You asked to be a man of faith, but now you are being invited to become a man of truth. That sentence stayed with me, because I finally understood the difference. Faith alone can be performed, but truth requires your whole self. It demands everything. It leaves no room for pride, no shadow for ego to hide in. It opens you completely to the love of God, and in doing so, it opens the way for others to follow. Even your children, even your grandchildren, especially them. I could feel it now, something stirring inside me, a call deeper than I had ever known. Not to preach, not to impress, but to live, to become someone who carried light, not doctrine. Someone who left behind humility, tenderness, and the kind of love that sets others free. And then I heard a sound, not a voice, not a cry, It was something rising, something approaching, something that would shake the very foundation of everything I thought I knew. It was a sound I had never heard before, not music, not wind, not words. It was like a vibration, deep and alive. It didn't come from outside, but from within me, as though something buried inside was finally waking up after a lifetime of silence. Then came the light again. Not the same gentle pulse from before. This was brighter, warmer, stronger. It didn't blind me, it embraced me, wrapped me in a love I didn't deserve and didn't need to earn. It was as if heaven itself had leaned close to say, "You are still mine." I broke. Every defense, every layer of pride, every shield I had ever raised to protect my image, all of it melted away. I had nothing left to hide behind, but strangely, I didn't feel exposed. I felt safe. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't trying to look righteous. I simply was. And God was still there, still loving me, still calling me. Tears came, deep, shaking tears, not from fear or regret, from release, from peace, from the quiet, breathtaking realization that I didn't have to carry any of it anymore. I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to be perfect. I just had to be real. The voice returned, closer now, not loud but certain and full of joy. "This is what I've waited for, Martin. Not your rituals, not your titles, your heart, just your heart." It was so simple and yet so powerful. I had spent decades perfecting the outer layers of my faith, the prayers, the service, the appearances. But I had never fully offered what God wanted most, my brokenness, my need, my honesty. I had always tried to bring him strength, not weakness, but now I knew the truth. Only the surrendered heart can be healed, and mine was finally surrendered. In that moment, I didn't just feel peace. I became peace. My soul was no longer at war. My mind was no longer racing. I was still and I was whole. The weight of pride, of legacy, of failure, it lifted, not because I had fixed it, but because I had finally let go. The light surrounded me completely. It moved through me. It was alive, and it spoke not with sound, but with knowing. You will return. I didn't know how. I didn't even know where I was. But I felt it in my bones. My time wasn't over. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. You will live again, the voice continued, but not as before. You will walk in humility. You will lead with love. You will be light. And in that moment, I said the words that now came naturally, not rehearsed, not polished, just true. Here I am, Lord. I'm yours. There was no lightning, no explosion, only a quiet shift, like the breath before dawn. The vision began to fade. The fire, the shadows, the pain, all of it melted into the light. I was coming back, but not as the same man. This channel exists for stories like this, for people like you. If something in your heart awakened today, don't ignore it. Subscribe now, give this video a like, and walk with us. This is not about perfection. It's about becoming real, together. Leave a comment with your name and city. We'd be honored to welcome you in the next video. You are part of something sacred, and your presence here matters. When I opened my eyes, the world hadn't changed, but I had. The ceiling above me was familiar, my own. I was in my home, the same walls, the same window, the same scent of salt air drifting in from the coast. But everything felt new, as if I had been blind my whole life and could finally see what had been in front of me all along. I lay still for a long time, listening to my heartbeat. It wasn't fear that pulsed through me. It was gratitude, pure, sacred gratitude. I had been given another chance, not just to live, but to truly live. I sat up slowly, breathing deeply, as memories of everything I had seen flowed through me like waves. I hadn't had a dream. I hadn't imagined it. I had been there. I had heard him. I had seen what so many never do. And now, I couldn't keep it to myself. My family came into the room, and for the first time in years, I looked at them with new eyes. Eyes that didn't judge. Eyes that didn't demand. Eyes that loved, that truly loved. I held their hands and told them everything, not to scare them, to free them. They listened. Some cried, some just held my hand tighter, but something shifted in the air that day, not just in me, but in all of us. The walls of tradition and appearance began to crumble, and in their place we built something new. Honesty, vulnerability, a search for God that came from within, not from the outside in. And day by day, that light grew. I returned to my church, not to lead, not to be seen, but to serve, quietly, humbly. I started speaking only when my heart was full, and staying silent when it wasn't. I no longer needed recognition. I no longer cared for titles. I cared for souls. I began to pray differently. Not long, elaborate prayers, but short, broken, honest ones. The kind that heaven listens to because they come from a place of surrender, not performance. And people noticed, not because I preached, but because I had changed. Some asked what had happened, and I told them. I told them everything. Some believed, others walked away, but I never stopped sharing, because I know what I saw. I know the voice that called my name. I know what fire smells like when it's eternal, and I know what grace feels like when it wraps around your soul like a blanket after a long, cold night. If there is anything I now understand with absolute clarity, it's this. The greatest danger to the soul is not sin, it's pride. The belief that we are fine as we are, that we don't need to change, that we are good enough on our own. But the truth is none of us are, and yet God's mercy is greater than our blindness. I don't know why I was given a second chance. I don't deserve it, but I received it. And now, I will spend every day of my life honoring that mercy, not with pride, but with humility, with love, and with a voice that will never again stay silent. If this testimony moved something in you, don't walk away from it. It may be your moment, your invitation to change before it's too late. Subscribe to this channel and join a community where faith is real and hearts are being awakened every day. Please share your name and the city you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to welcome you personally in the next video. This is more than a message. This is the beginning of your return. You are not alone. Click on the next video on your screen. It may change your life in ways you never expected. Comment Amen if you received this message in your heart, and may your journey of transformation begin now.